On the evening of January 30th, 1948, about 10 minutes past 5 o'clock, Mahatma Gandhi stepped out of Birla House, where he had been in a meeting with Sardar Patel, and headed towards the garden for a prayer meeting. His steps weighed down by thoughts of the growing rift between Nehru and Patel. As he approached the prayer platform, Nathuram Godse fired 3 shots at him at point-blank range. Gandhi fell to the ground. It's almost 60 years since the assassination of the Mahatma. 60 years since India became an independent nation. Hello and welcome to Rising India, the defining moments, the moments that have changed and transformed the life of a nation. With me, Dr. Ramchandra Guha, the country's foremost historian and author of India After Gandhi. Ram, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Ram, we are here at Gandhi Smriti, at the very spot where the Mahatma was assassinated. Much has changed in the last 60 years. Not easy choosing the 10 defining moments that have shaped the life of a nation.
Not easy at all. We could have chosen 60 as your original poll did. We could have chosen 100. But we finally decided on those 10 moments which individually radically altered the career and history of the nation. Sometimes altered it for good, sometimes for ill, and sometimes, as we shall see, for good and for ill.
In fact, the first defining moment that we've chosen comes even before the assassination. It's the year 1947, a year of pain and chaos, but a year also when the final jewel was fitted in the Indian crown, the accession of Kashmir.
When the British left India, all the subcontinent's 500 princely states had to choose whether they wanted to join India or Pakistan. Kashmir, sharing borders with both, chose neither. In 1947, Maharaja Hari Singh was the ruler of Kashmir, the Hindu ruler of a Muslim people.
My father was in a difficult situation because you see, this is a multi-regional state and there were lots of different forces acting. There were forces within the state, there were forces from outside. In fact, that was the reason why by the 15th of August he had not decided to join either of the dominions.
On 22nd October 1947, Pakistan invaded Kashmir by pushing in thousands of Pashtun raiders who reached as far as Baramulla, a few hours from Srinagar. A panic-stricken Hari Singh asked the Indian government for help, which answered that it would, only if Kashmir agreed to join India.
Everything came to a head with the tribal invasion that was launched from Pakistan. By releasing that invasion, they really left him with no option.
On 27th October 1947, Hari Singh and the Governor-General, Lord Louis Mountbatten, signed the instrument of accession. The next day, Indian troops were airlifted into Kashmir and pushed the raiders back. Or did they? Some historians say Indian troops landed before Hari Singh actually signed, thus forcing the prince to join India. Indian ownership of Kashmir still sparks political controversy. Article 370 of the Indian Constitution gives Kashmir special status within India. India and Pakistan have fought 4 wars over Kashmir, and for over 4 decades, a popular movement has questioned Indian rule. The waters of the Dal Lake have reflected images of separatism and terror.
The Kashmir conundrum that still haunts the subcontinent. Now, Ram, in a sense, Kashmir is a thread that's run through the last 60 years. The bloodletting hasn't stopped.
Sadly, no. And that's because Kashmir, or the possession of Kashmir, is fundamental to the founding myth of both India and Pakistan. The K in Pakistan stands for Kashmir. And the idea of Indian secularism also rests on Kashmir being part of our nation.
In a sense, then, Kashmir is about symbolism. It's about Pakistan seeing it as the unfinished agenda of partition, India seeing it as a symbol of a secular state.
Regrettably so. The great Kashmiri leader Sheikh Abdullah once said that the valley of Kashmir is like a beautiful woman coveted by 2 greedy males, namely India and Pakistan, and to that we must add now a 3rd greedy male, the jihadis.
But can Kashmir ever become a bridge between the 2 countries rather than a divide?
Well, it's curious that you say that, because we are speaking at the place where Mahatma Gandhi was martyred, and Gandhiji was the first to recognize that the valley of Kashmir, where all religions coexisted peaceably, this valley could be a bridge between India and Pakistan and teach us all to live in harmony.
That's then our first defining moment. Well, 1947-48 also saw the framing of the Constitution really taking shape. Now, if Kashmir was a festering wound, the framing of the Constitution was the bandage that a new nation so desperately needed. A new nation scarred by a deep colonial legacy. The framing of the Constitution is our second defining moment.
We, the people of India, constitute ourselves into a sovereign democratic republic. The constitution of the largest democracy in the world goes against the accepted wisdom in a social order marked by caste hierarchy, in an economic system where rich and poor are sharply separated. The Constitution of India enshrines a concept that has never been popularly accepted in this part of the world, the concept of equality.
The pride of our Constitution is the guarantee of fundamental rights which are judicially enforceable. Is Article 32 of our Constitution, which provides that any citizen can approach the Supreme Court directly if his or her fundamental rights are violated. And that is the great contribution of Dr. Ambedkar.
The Dalit chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution was B.R. Ambedkar, for whom political democracy was meaningless without social democracy. The Constitution was passed on November 26, 1949 and came into force on January 1950. In its final form, it had 395 articles and was the longest written constitution in the world. At the heart of India beats its constitution, radical, forward-looking, promising equality before law, equality above all.
The framing of the Constitution. Now, Ram, the Constitution is a remarkable document, but what's even more remarkable is the collection of great individuals, men and women, of different political persuasions who got together at one time in our history.
Indeed, it was a visionary piece of teamwork. Mahatma Gandhi told the Congress that independence has come to the entire nation, not just to one political party. So, as a result of his advice, the Constituent Assembly included communists, Hindu Mahasabha people, lawyers, professionals, and also the great B.R. Ambedkar, who was actually a political opponent of the Congress before independence.
And they placed equality before the law as the central feature. Now, in an unequal society with all its princes around, it couldn't have been easy.
In that kind of deeply divided and hierarchical society, to place equality before the law and to run the polity on democratic principles was a very bold and brave and daring act.
Well, could that bold and brave and daring act be translated into reality? After a break, many more defining moments, the challenges before a new nation. Moments, the challenges before a new nation. Welcome back to Rising India, the defining moments. We're here at Teen Murti House, the official residence of the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. Now, Ram, Nehru really towered over the first 2 decades of Indian independence.
In fact, he was known as the People's Prince. One Western contemporary said of Nehru that to the people of India, he is Napoleon, Lincoln, Washington, and Roosevelt all rolled into one. That was the kind of towering figure he was.
Well, Nehru's first big challenge came in 1952, India's first general election, a remarkable exercise led by a remarkable group of people.
The first voters came from all walks of life. Poor, tribal, from remote areas and big cities, destitute women and rural men, to participate in the boldest, most exciting experiment in modern democracy. The turnout was over 62%, making India the world's largest democracy. There were 20 lakh ballot boxes, 3 lakh electoral officers, 2 lakh polling booths, and 2 lakh policemen to service an election across 10 lakh square miles. The first election commissioner was Sukumar Sen, the precursor of the many idealistic officers who have come after him. Could uneducated people vote? Asked the critics. Did the poor really have freedom of choice? Asked Western observers. India's first general elections created many questions, many of which still endure to this day. But when the first votes were cast on October 25th, 1951, when Nehru and the Indian National Congress swept to power in 1952, a people accustomed to being ruled suddenly became their own masters.
The 1952 general elections, democracy in action. One man towered over all else in those elections, Jawaharlal Nehru, which is perhaps appropriate then that we are here in Nehru's wonderful study in Teen Murti House. 17 years Ram as India's first Prime Minister, but 1952 was when Nehru came into his own.
If Gandhi was the father of Indian independence, Nehru was the builder of Indian democracy. And the one event that defines India's coming of age as a modern democracy are those first elections of 1952.
Nehru in fact addressed what? 200 mass meetings, reached out to 20 million people. But it's not just Nehru, there were others too. Sukumar Sen was the unsung hero, the first chief election commissioner.
Indeed, and it was a happy accident. The Sukumar Sen, the first chief election commissioner, was a mathematician, a gold medalist from Imperial College, and he needed all his mathematical skills to organize an election so complex for a population that was so large, so diverse, illiterate.
Including taking ballot boxes on camels. We take elections for granted these days, but in those days must have been an onerous exercise.
It was because of Sukumar Sen that we have symbols and not names, because we had an illiterate voting population. So that's why